Welcome to the On TV podcast. We're the podcast for health professionals and the wider community, looking to explore diverse ideas in health, ask some hard questions, and have some honest conversations. My name is EP. My name is Archie. I'm an EP based on Sydney's Northern Beaches, and joining me as always is allied health business owner Andrew. Andrew, how are you today?
I'm good, mate. How are you going? Is everything okay with you?
Fucking horrible is what it was.
That was different.
That might be the worst start I've ever done. Now people know that I never edit and redo the starts because I just said my name is EP and I'm an Archie based out of Northern Beaches.
But I love that you've continued and you haven't let that throw you.
I looked around the room. I was like, should I restart? And I went, fuck it. I think this is more for the podcast. We have another person in the room today. We have Sara from Simply Stronger in Melbourne, who's come up all the way to Sydney to be with us in person, which is wild. So I mentioned Sara, and I mispronounced your name last time you were on here. I said
you did
Sara.
call me Sara.
Because I panicked that there was no H. And I was like, does that mean I say it differently?
I figured it was a 50-50.
It was 50-50.
Sometimes I spell my name in brackets with a H so that people know how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
And I do have an alias on my email address so that when people spell it with a H, it still comes through.
Oh, wow.
No one spells it right.
That's actually really
that's very
smart.
clever. Yeah, well done.
Okay. Maybe I should.
It's a simple thing.
Yeah, a simple thing. There you go. So in a month earlier this year, I can't remember what month it was, we got a package and it had 4 beers in it. And they were beautifully laid out, and there was a lovely handwritten note, and it was from you. And my first thought was, someone listens to the podcast, which is amazing because you see downloads. But I was like, does anyone actually listen to it, or is it just like automatic download and then?
Well, apparently it's all me.
Apparently it's all you. So thank you, our one listener. Wait, but if you're in here, who's going to be listening?
Everyone I share this with.
Yes. Very good. The entire network, the entire Melbourne EP scene.
That's it.
So then we messaged, and I was like, first of all, thank you for sending us a note and some beers. That was wonderful. And then we were like, should we do a podcast? I was like, yeah, do you want to do it over Zoom? And you're like, no, I'll come up for it. I was like, what? It's like, to Sydney? So maybe start there and tell us, why you made the decision to come up, but also tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, brilliant. So my name's Sara and I run a practice called Simply Stronger down in Victoria. It's in Caulfield North. So any excuse to go and enjoy the Northern Beaches, and had a lovely walk along the coast this morning, which was just beautiful. While I hear it is belting down rain in Melbourne, so
sorry for your loss.
It's not a hard choice.
Sorry for your loss, Melbourne.
But for me, it has been a year of growing as a business owner. So I've been getting out there and seeing lots of different businesses around Australia. I was in Brisbane last month, so I got to see a couple of practices up there, and more around Melbourne as well. So it's been really good to be able to get out and see the different ways that EPs practice. I qualified quite a long time ago, so the way that practicing itself has changed, and even back when I qualified, the uni I went to was very musk based, and you either went to Ballarat and it was musk, or you went to VU and it was cardio and neuro, and that was kind of your specialty from the outset, and all of that has really changed over the years. So it's been really good to get out there and see how that has changed and the different ways that people have taken their practices, and it's been great to spend the day at Rebound to come and see what you guys do.
There you go. So mess around and do silly things and
throwing balls and balloons and
lots of balloons, lots of ball throwing. Not much weights going on here. I just realised we haven't even cracked a beer yet.
No, we haven't. But also
from
the outset of listening to your podcast, I just love the idea of the beers, and I'm a big fan of beer too. So straight away I was like, well, I need to send these boys some beers. And then we went from there.
What have you got?
So the first one I'm going to start with from Bonehead Brewing. It is called Raise a Glass. So we are raising a glass to meeting and catching up and hanging out together.
Awesome.
It's a West Coast IPA from Bonehead in Kensington in Victoria. So if anyone knows where Flemington Racecourse, the race that stops a nation, that is where you will find Bonehead.
Wow. That's a nice IPA.
That is a nice IPA.
I love it.
It's 2 standard drinks.
Yeah. Whew. Do you need a lift home tonight?
Might leave the
You
car
might be
here.
getting the B1. So have you been to this brewery? Do they have
I haven't actually been to this one, but I quite like a West Coast.
Yeah.
So when I saw this in the bottle shop, I thought, yes, that sounds good. And I like the name, and the can was cool too.
It's a sick can. There's basically a big explosion going on there with 2 beers chinking on the front. It looks pretty epic. It's great. Can you? Because we talked. We went for a beer yesterday, and you clearly know your beer a lot. I know that on your app called
Untapped.
you have over 1,000 different beers registered on there,
Yep.
which is very impressive. What is the difference between a West Coast IPA and a not West Coast IPA?
A lot of it comes down to the hops that they're going to be using in it and the flavour profile. So most of the time you're looking at a West Coast versus like a New England or a NEPA.
NEPA.
And NEPAs are often really quite hazy and really juicy.
Okay.
So they taste a lot like a breakfast juice, but in a beer. Whereas a hazy can still be juicy, but is much more hoppy and flowery and flavourful. Where a West Coast, you can taste it's quite flowery and fragrant in the way that you taste it. So
Okay.
Very good.
comes down to the hops.
That is like way more insight.
We've got some upskilling to do with our beer.
It's like the most in-depth our beer chat goes is, that was good. Yeah, that wasn't good.
And then reading what's on the label.
We haven't even done that yet. Oh my God.
Sometimes you do remark on the colour when it's a dark beer or
Yes.
something.
Oh, very dark beer today.
Out of a black can.
Out of a black can.
Yeah, excellent.
Not transparent at all.
I did consider bringing in sours to see how you go.
We would have given them a go.
Yeah.
We're pretty mainstream. We're kind of boring with our beer, aren't we? I feel like we don't explore that much, and we only really explore as much as whatever the Bayfields has down the road. And because it's a big chain, they don't go too crazy in their beers.
Well,
either.
I figured this was a perfect opportunity to bring some up from Victoria and broaden your horizons.
Well, we never drink beers from other states, really, unless someone tells us to.
Yeah.
So this is great. We're very, very happy, and it's a delicious beer.
Glad you're enjoying it.
So you were saying that you went to Ballarat.
Did?
Quick question for you off that. From the EPs who are finishing uni now, compared to what you were doing at Ballarat Uni, I'm not going to say when. I don't know when. Back when you guys were kids sometime. Grandparents of EP
It's fine.
here.
I'm happy to admit that I graduated in 2005.
Wow, there you go. Andrew, when were you?
2006.
Oh, the real matriarch of EP here. You take a little step down now,
Wow.
mate, from your
I can.
pedestal.
I will step
down
down.
from your pedestal. Good. Take your badge off as the grandfather. How different does it sound, the course-wise, for EPs then and now?
Quite different. I mean, back in my day, I can't believe I just said that, but yes, back in my day, we had quite an intensive anatomy component to the course. I would spend every Thursday morning in the anatomy lab with cadavers, literally dissecting and learning so much more about that than what the students are coming out with now. They don't have the in-depth knowledge that we had of the muscles and tendons and ligaments and all of that sort of stuff, but they know so much more about chronic conditions than what we were taught. I do not remember discussing diabetes.
Really?
Surely it came up. I don't remember
Fascinating.
it. We did a lot on assessments, understanding special tests. The idea was that if we understood all of that, then we get referrals from physios, we can actually read them and understand them and know a whole lot more about what we should be doing with people based on the information that we have. And if we don't understand what that report tells us, then what are you meant to do with that? So we did more testing and analysis and assessment of people back then as well. But you would always preface it with, this isn't my day-to-day, right? Yes, I can do an anterior draw and, have a fairly good idea of what's going on with your ACL, but it's not my day-to-day. That was what a physio did. So you would send people off for that. And it also meant that we had a really good relationship with the physios. We knew exactly what we did. They knew what we did. We knew what they did. And it worked really, really well. And I think those lines have blurred a little bit over time, with particularly over the last couple of years, with physios figuring out how useful exercise is and how we can do more of that when you can't get as hands-on with people. But getting back to your point as how the uni courses have changed, what the students are coming out with now is a much, much broader knowledge, I think. And quite often I'm saying to my staff, like, they'll come to me saying, how do I treat this? And I'm like, you have a much better idea of what that looks like than I do. You want to know about a particular exercise? That's my cup of tea. Like, I know how to tailor exercises. Everything is modifiable, and you can adapt everything to any body that's in front of you. And certainly as a practitioner, I think that was always my skill set, was being able to work with whatever that person had in front of me and being able to figure out an exercise that got done what they wanted to achieve.
I feel like also that if you've been practicing for, say, 12.
It's a while, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'll just say 10. I'll just say 10 plus years.
Yep.
You've probably seen most things come through the door more than once, which I feel like is a huge help when it comes to experience and helping other people, that you can just go like, oh, I can kind of read this person's personality a little bit, and I can probably have an idea about what kind of people they've seen already and what their journey's been like through this health condition. So then you can relate to people incredibly well. Like every time I talk to a more experienced practitioner, their interpersonal skills are generally really good, and they can generally read people, like clients who come in the door, really well. That's what I find anyway with really good experienced practitioners. Whereas, and I know I still get this, is I'll have people come in the door to see me and I was like, oh, haven't had a person with your kind of personality before. And then I'm spending a bit of time trying to work out how best to communicate with them, to match them and work out how our personalities are going to work together. And that sort of thing. And
I can understand that.
Even newer practitioners go, well, this is the first time I've had a person present with knee pain that looks like this. And then everything's new to them.
Yeah. And I think you do, over time, you get, it feels like it's innate. Like you just know how to read people and talk to them. And it has to have just come from experience, because surely when I first graduated, I had no idea. But I remember specifically clients coming to me and saying, that they're doing lunges and they're feeling it in their back leg, but in the quad. And I'm like, that's not where it's meant to be. Why is it there? And I would, if I couldn't figure out what was going on at the time, wait till they left, and then I'd do it wrong until I felt it in that spot, so that I could cue it differently when they came back. Because I'd realise, oh, actually, it's because you just need to stretch that, or maybe you need to load in this area better, or whatever that was. But I would spend the time to get to know that. And when you had those experiences with people on a personal level where you couldn't connect with them, rather than just going, oh, that's just them, they just don't vibe with me. And it is always okay. If you have a client that is not the right fit for you, it's totally fine. And being okay with that is, I guess that just comes with growth as well. But you learn from those experiences, and you can watch, when you get to work in bigger clinics like this, you can watch other practitioners and you can see sessions that go really, really well, and you learn from that, and you can see sessions that aren't going well, and how you can learn from those as well and go, okay, yeah, I would have tried this. Doesn't mean it would have worked better, but my instinct is to go this way instead and see how that goes.
That's really interesting. Do you feel like the reading people, and this is going to segue a little bit to a topic we want to talk about today, do you feel like the reading people and comes to networking skills as well with you? Do you feel like you can meet another health professional and kind of work out their vibe and how you'll match with them reasonably quickly?
Yeah, I think so. And again, that comes from just years of practice. But I mean, all networking really is building relationships.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just one small step to build to the next step, to the next, to the next, to the next. And that might be as simple as just commenting on a Facebook post or a LinkedIn post or any of those sorts of things. And then when you've commented a few times and they comment back, or maybe you send someone beers and then you're on their podcast.
Well, that worked. Yeah.
All of our Melbourne clients are going to go to you now.
But, you know, it's not that hard to build relationships. When we have new grads coming through Simply Stronger, it is such a daunting task when you're like, right, so networking. But when you break it down to how you just build relationships. And so commonly, like I once wrote them an email and listed out the 20 things I had done that week that were all networking based. And it was not even things that I'd even thought about. It was that I'd emailed this particular dietitian or someone, and I'd done so many different things that were, you know, one of them I'd been to a networking event because I'm part of the Women's Health Collective. So we have monthly or bi-monthly events. And then from there, you'd met this person, you had sent them some details and sent some postcards to someone else. And all these other things, they have these flow-on effects and it becomes really easy. So I'm sure you found this, Andrew, that over time, once you've built those networks, you just foster them. And it's not complex. But teaching that can be really hard.
Is that something that you do at Simply Stronger? You're teaching your new grads, like, how to do this?
Trying to, yeah.
Trying to, yeah.
To varying degrees of success, because I think for a long time I had such a solid reputation in our area. So we have a great network of allied health and a reasonable GP network as well. And then if I wasn't fostering that because I was spending more time working on the business and no one's fostering that, and those kind of referrals started to dwindle, and my staff, even a couple of years in, are saying to me, so who's the physio that you would send this person to? And I'm like, you need to find one. You need to build your own network. And they're doing that now, which is great, but it had to be taught. It's not something that we teach them at uni. And you need to be able to have that experience and spend some time building those relationships. And I think one of the things that I've found is the go-to is to send an email, and that's really easy to ignore. So if
Might as well put like a letter in a postbox.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, that no one's going to bother opening.
Exactly. Yeah.
It'll just go on a stack. And I mean, emails, it's a dime a dozen. There's so many of them and so much spam. If you want to get someone's attention, you got to do something different, you know, and maybe phone calls are not the right way. And emails are brilliant when you've got a relationship, but they're not necessarily the way to start a relationship.
So where do you start then?
Usually I will call, or I will, often it'll be sending messages over Instagram now.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of the business owners that I network with, I send them messages over Instagram, and that's how we communicate. Like Archie and I don't have each other's phone numbers, but we've just talked over Instagram.
I called you over Instagram yesterday.
Interesting that its default was not to turn on the microphone when you made a phone call.
Well, it's not in the same position. Like, it's not in the entire like user interface on Instagram calling is so different to any other phone call thing. And I felt like I was 90 years old. I'd gone, hello? Is anybody there? Can you hear me? Wait, I can't work out this thing. I was like, fuck.
And I was on the other end going, why isn't, I can hear him, but my noise isn't coming through, and the microphone wasn't automatically turned on.
No.
for a call.
Yeah, fucking stupid.
Instagram.
ridiculous.
There you go.
Yeah.
Fix that.
Fix that, Meta. Mark Zuckerberg, dickhead. Sorry, Mark.
Please don't cancel us.
Don't cancel our Instagram. But yeah, like, that's probably where I'm most active in a professional network is Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's LinkedIn. I think that's what you said before about, commenting on posts and just sort of showing up, and then they'll start engaging with you, and that's when you can that's when you DM someone.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like, because I don't know about you, but I get a lot of people sending me DMs through LinkedIn.
Yep.
I'm like, and 99.9% of them are just people like cold emailing you or cold messaging you, and it's like straight to, I'm not going to read that. Whereas if I've seen the name a few times and like I've seen them comment, like I'm much more likely to start a conversation with somebody on that.
Because it's the same thing, like, think of it as an in-person thing, right? You've gone to the conference, you've gone to the different networking events, and the same faces pop up, and you're like, I've seen you here before. So you go up and have a conversation despite the fact that you've never met. You don't know each other. You probably, in that instance, don't know a whole lot about each other, just that there must be something in common here. But you can have that conversation because there's that commonality going on. And whether it's LinkedIn or Instagram or even Facebook for some people, whatever that networking is, you just start by paying attention and getting to know different people. And unless you've got, like some of my team have reached out to particular other allied health people because they have seen what they've done in the social media space and they have a genuine question about that. And like, we are like-minded people. Can we talk about this thing? And they've been invited into their clinics to come out and see them and actually have a chat and build that relationship further. These aren't even people that are necessarily in our demographic. So they're not likely to supply them clients, but they might supply them answers when they have some questions in the future. And networking, I think the key thing to remember is it's not all about referrals. Yes, referrals will come from that sort of stuff, but there's nothing about buying beers for you guys and coming up to Sydney that is going to get any referrals to my clinic. But I might have business-based questions in the future that I could reach out to Andrew because he knows me now and we have a relationship. So doing little things along the way that build to bigger things, that's how you build relationships.
I wonder if going into networking with the outcome being I need to have a number of clients that I get out of this is kind of barking up the wrong tree and going in with the wrong expectations or goals.
Well, you think about the conversation that iterates from that, right? Because if you're going in to sell yourself, like you don't build rapport with somebody by talking about yourself.
Because people find sales yucky.
Exactly. And like if I'm met you for the first time and you just sat there for 10 minutes talking about yourself, like that's kind of boring.
You'd love that though, because then you wouldn't
Or the introvert in me is like, thank Christ, because now I don't have to talk.
Yeah.
But also like...
But I haven't taken a
switched
genuine
off.
care in you. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
And you hear other people talk about if you want to network with people, you got to find their problem and find the solution for their problem, present that to them. And there's some truth in that. I always make sure that when I'm meeting with other allied health, it's like, okay, so tell me a little bit about the clients that you see so that if there's anyone that we can send your way, who of our clients are going to be a good fit for your brand and those sorts of things. I'm never asking them, who can they send my way? And if they have people, they're going to offer that information because you've got a like-minded interest in the way that you think and the way that you practice. So you're not going to be undermining each other, because that's everyone's biggest fear when they're sending someone out into the multidisciplinary world, is that you're going to have your information undermined by someone else, or they're going to tell them a different story that contradicts or confuses, doesn't even have to contradict, but just adds that layer of confusion when it's taken you so long to get this person to understand what you want them to do in the first place.
Absolutely. That is you've put a nail on the head of like my main concern when I send someone out or someone says, I've been seeing this person, and I go, oh no. And it's like, what have they told you? It's like my first question is, oh, what did they say, or what did you learn from them? And I'm on edge because I'm really worried that all this work that I've done to have them, believe this certain narrative around their health, is going to change because someone's just thrown a no CBIC comment at them, and now everything's undone. They've cut the bottom off the ladder. And it's like, oh no, don't start again. So absolutely right. Like I in networking, I want to find out as much as possible about the other person and how they practice and how they'd answer these questions, so I can learn myself, but then also if I can learn, so I can learn about them to know whether I'd trust them with my clients. And I think that is definitely the first step before I'd go, so who can you send me? No way, we're not going anywhere near that question. Especially like if you ask someone the first time you meet someone, then what are you doing? That's like, running into someone on the street and them going, do you want to buy a car off me? It's like, fuck off. Leave me alone. Don't sell me a house. It's like, you might as well be a real estate agent. Yeah.
I don't know about you, Sarah, but one of my, like, very early on when I was doing the networking thing and sort of picking up off what Archie was saying before there, I would go and be a patient of theirs. So if it was a chiro or a massage therapist or whatever, I would actually be a patient of theirs so that I could, to your point, I could learn the way that they're going to talk to me about what's going on with my shit. And hopefully that is similar to what they would be saying to their patients.
And I would often, when I've done that in the past, I would hold back who I am. Because I want to get that patient experience, not that other allied health experience.
Absolutely.
Because the language is completely different.
Super different.
But on that note, my GP recently retired. Now, she was a great referrer, and most of the GPs in that practice refer to our clinic as well, which is fantastic. But I didn't know which one of them I wanted to see, so I've been trialling them. And I walked into the first one with my Simply Stronger shirt and my Simply Stronger hat on, and walked in.
And a flag.
The hat was enough because I walked in and I'm like, oh, sorry, I should take my hat off. I'm inside. And she went, right, Simply Stronger. I have been sending people your way, and spent 15 minutes talking to me about our business, what she wants to know, who she wants to send, is this the right fit, all of these questions before we got to what I was actually there for, which was fine because it was a pap smear and I'm not excited about those. But anyway...
What clients do you like, Pastor? What? That's all I'm thinking about. Sorry, go on.
But it was great to have that rapport with her. And we then not only got EPCs in the coming couple of months after her, we got referrals where we've had clients come in saying, so my doctor won't write me an EPC for this, or I've used it in the past this year or whatever, but she recommended that we come and see you, right? Because we'd managed to have that conversation that I have rung that clinic. I know the practice nurse, which that was, again, I needed an iron infusion, so I had 45 minutes with the practice nurse. We had a great conversation.
Nice.
So in that time, they get to know me, they get to know the business, they get to ask any questions that they want to ask. Now, you don't necessarily get to do that with GPs all that often. This is a unique experience, but certainly with other allied health, that if you are willing to go and actually pay your money to experience what is going on for them, then, they know that you're legit and that you're actually trying to build a connection and understand what it is that they do.
What I take from that is just being, the word that comes to mind is opportunistic, right? Not in a bad sense, but in like there's an opportunity for me to spend a bunch of time with someone, and instead of like pulling out your Instagram and going all internal, you're engaging in a conversation with them because they're there. And when you go and meet the practice nurse, same thing. Like there's somebody there to talk to, so I'm going to talk to them.
Yeah.
Not just like pull out your phone and try and like hide yourself.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people, even if you are quite introverted, as some people are, you want to hide sometimes, but you need to, like, you're not ashamed of what you do. You know, you're good at your job. Why not tell people about it? Even the gym that I go to, so they do functional fitness classes, whatever that means.
Whatever functional means.
Yeah.
We used to run functional movement classes.
We did. How fun was that? As opposed to dysfunctional
Yeah.
classes.
They were always on the Friday afternoon, the dysfunctional ones, yeah. So I go to these classes and I don't present myself as an exercise physiologist. I just go because I don't have to think in that time. I do a lot of thinking in my day-to-day. It's really nice to just go there, do my thing and walk away. A couple of weeks ago, there was a woman there who clearly was trying to modify stuff, and it's like 45 seconds on, 15 seconds off, move to the next thing. And she and I were in the same workout space at the time. And I'm like, oh, just change the grip, do this, da-da-da-da. So afterwards, she came up to me and she said, you know, you made these couple of changes. They were really easy and it worked. Yeah, that's fine. Great. I'm glad. Why'd you do it? Okay. I'm an exercise physiologist. I have a practice. It's only about 1 kilometre away from here. That's what I do. She is now a client. Not my client, with one of my staff, which is fantastic. But I didn't go in there to present that. But the opportunity presented itself, and I'm not going to hide behind that.
Love that.
It's really interesting.
And when you get used to it, it comes really easily. It's kind of like, have you ever done any fundraising?
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear that in your voices. It's unpleasant, isn't it? Yeah. But once you get into the role of it, you can fundraise the shit out of it.
Yeah. Towards the end of the day, of a fundraising day, you don't care anymore.
Yeah.
You just talk to people. Yeah, good, whatever. Hey, whatever. Yeah, give me money. I noticed that like the start of we go to the NDIS Expo once a year out in the ICC, and the start of the day, day one, you're a little nervous again to like, hello, hi, come and talk to us. By the end of the day, like people walking around, you go, hey, how you going? Come on over here. Come talk to me. And like you're like, I've already talked to 100 people. Who are you? You're just another number. You know? It's like,
absolutely.
It's easy.
Yeah.
Even last week we had, so I made a little QR code for the removal of GST petition that's going around at the moment.
Very nice.
It's on our front desk. Every client that walked in the door.
Oh, what a great idea.
Can you help me out?
Give us 10%
we're
more
doing
revenue,
this.
please.
I'm just waiting for them to turn around and be like, so when are you going to discount our session?
Yeah, it's like, no, this is going to stop. No. This is just going to stop the prices from going up.
It's a small delay.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I think my takeaways from what you guys have said about networking is being opportunistic in a good way, that like, not hiding from what you do in public when it comes up. But, we're in a role and we have the knowledge to help people. And if people ask, or if you notice something that you can help or suggest something, just be yourself. And yourself is someone who helps people on a daily basis. So more of like the more indirect, not the I'm going on to a meeting to meet this person for a networking meeting, just kind of any opportunity is an opportunity to do. And then also going into it not with the expectation of referrals, but going with the expectation to learn, have a conversation and build a relationship. And the other one I thought of, which is what you said, Sarah, is if someone has seen your name a bit more and you've interacted with them on social media, on LinkedIn or something, they're more likely to respond to you than if you cold contact them out of nowhere. whether that's email, call, message, whatever, if you have engaged with them already or they've just seen you around at something, they're more likely to go, yeah, I'll have a conversation with you. I think that's some really, really useful tips. How do you go, or how have you found it goes trying to convey this advice and experience to clinicians with no experience in networking?
It's been an interesting road because, as I say, like this all feels really natural and easy to me. So it's like, back at uni when you had to learn how to teach someone to throw a ball and you're like, but I just do this.
Yeah.
And you had to then practice it with your non-dominant arm so that you could break down each of those steps, or how you first learned to drive a car, you break down each of those steps. That's what I had to do with this, was just to think about, all right, what are all the different steps, and try and break that down so that it becomes an achievable thing, rather than you need to go out and find this network. It's taken me years to build mine, and from a variety of sources. So you start with setting some achievable goals with, okay, you should interact with X many not people, but it could be comments on posts or emails or phone calls or whatever, but set yourself a number that's realistic each week that you're going to keep up that relationship. Plus, for my team, I encourage them to get out to 3 or 4 physical networking events, because being in Melbourne during COVID, all that shit shut down. We don't do face-to-face courses as much. Everything we learn is online now. So getting people face-to-face again is so meaningful when you're building those relationships. When you can be in a room with someone, it just has so much more context. So getting them back out there to actually spend time with people in these kinds of ways. And, for the last couple of months, that's what they've been doing is whether it's a professional development course that they want to do, or an actual networking event, whatever it is, they're trying to make sure that they're getting out there and doing that stuff face to face. So we actually hosted a networking event at Simply Stronger last month. That was part of the Women's Health Collective, which they have these in each state. And in Victoria, I've attended quite a few of them, and eventually it was my turn to host. And I went, okay, so I've got a topic, guys. And a client of mine who's a transgender female, I asked her to come and speak to us, and it was honestly amazing. She had so much information for us and was genuinely an open book. Talked about everything, everything that they went through in the surgeries, all so much information. And the people who were there, you could just talk to them. They were so engaged in the conversation, and it was in a way because there is so much, as someone who is cis and straight, I've got no idea,
no fucking clue
going into this space. And when Rora first came to me, I used to see her for an entirely different medical condition. And after a half dozen sessions, she wrote me an email saying, I have really enjoyed our time together, and I just want you to know that I'm trans. So thank you so much for everything that you've done. But if you don't want to be a part of my care anymore, then I totally understand that.
Oh,
yeah.
The fact that they felt the need to send that email in the first place just kind of gives you a little insight into how tough of a situation they're in.
Yeah. And in this presentation, she spoke about how she felt that was her expectation of everyone. her medical professionals, her friends, family, everyone. And the story that she told about when she actually went and told her dad, because her mum had passed, she had, after telling him, and they'd had a bit of a chat, and he went out of the room and came back with the baby name book that that his mum, her mum, and her dad had, been choosing names prior to knowing that she was born a male, and they picked a name from that.
Really? Her and her dad?
Yeah.
Incredible.
That was one of the names that her mum and her dad had picked out before she was born.
That's incredible.
And it was just, I felt like that was one of the most accepting ways that you could possibly have for someone. So to have this opportunity to have someone who was willing to answer any question that we had was really brilliant. And so my staff got to experience that, and everyone else who came to this networking event. It was really, really great. And one of the key takeaways that we got from that was that you don't have to be an expert to be an ally. I had, when I'd first replied to Rora's email, I had straight away responded to it going, I just want you to know that 100% I'm on your team. I want to help you so much, but I have no fucking idea what I'm doing. So if you're happy to learn with me, then, we're great. But I totally understand if you need someone who actually knows what they're doing. Turns out there's not many EPs who do in that space, right? There are more, but this was probably 5-6 years ago as well. So very new, and to Rora's credit, she just said, no, I want someone who cares. It doesn't matter how much you know. And she reiterated that again, that, I'd been cautious about putting anything on our website or, really calling out that we're an LGBTQIA safe space, which of course we are, because I'm not an expert. But she said, no, that's just a logo that lets us know that you're safe. We're not expecting experts because the percentage of people who are trans is so small. They just want to know that they're safe. And it was really, really interesting in the time leading up to this. I was actually looking through a bunch of different allied health websites to see what they had in their up on their website, whether they had this logo or anything. And I only found one in the 30 websites that I went through. You want to guess where it was?
Was it Rebound Health?
Yeah, it genuinely was.
And look, that wasn't there prior to March, April this year.
Yep.
And fully on board with the we are not experts. We are definitely allies. But it wasn't until we had one of our new grad physios come on board who was particularly passionate about the area, provide some education to us about the population and how we can be allies. And we're like, yeah, absolutely. We didn't know that there was something that we should be doing to support. And we're like, what can we do? And it's like, we'll start with this, with the rainbow tick and welcome here. And it's like, oh, well, absolutely. Yeah, no question.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what do we do with it? It's like, well, you put it at your front desk to start. You put it on the website.
Yep.
And that was super valuable. She did an in-service, which was super, super valuable to us as well. Like the entire team. We've done a couple of them now, actually, where Kate has just kind of been through some education around transgender health and gay health in general, which was all new information to me, and I think quite a lot of the team, especially from our little Northern Beaches bubble here. Super, super interesting that you definitely don't learn that at uni.
No, interestingly enough, one of my new grads, she graduated, so they finished in June, I think, and her course had an element in there.
Really?
Yeah. 'cause
What
when
uni
we
was
were
that?
Deakin.
Yeah, okay.
So it's clearly starting to get to the forefront, which I think is really important.
Incredible.
Because again, if you don't have that lived experience, where else are you going to get that knowledge? But being able to put the sign on your door and put the sign on your website, like we had the sign on our door, and again, it was only in June that I put it on my door because it was Gay Pride Month, and I'm like, well, of course, this is. Yes, we should. You know, and you talk about being in a Northern Beaches bubble. Where we are is 5Ks from the Pride Centre.
Yeah, right.
Right? So it's not exactly a bubble, but it's not, it's still, I couldn't tell you if there's anyone who's queer in our clinic. You know, it's not a conversation that we tend to have with people, which is also fine. But we want people to know that they are safe in that space.
It's a very easy place to start, right? And I imagine for your client, knowing they were safe was the most important thing over, are you an expert in this area?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. She said every time, hands down, they're not expecting experts. What they want is someone who is willing to learn and listen.
Andrew, when the conversation came up with Kate and Sol physios about what we can do, was that I imagine it was quite an easy decision
I
for you
think it was
to...
like a 10-second conversation.
Yeah,
Like,
and then it was more like, what, how?
yeah, it was like, this is an idea. It's like, great. Like, where do we want to put it? It's like on the website, we've got a little sign at the front, on email signatures. It's like, okay, do it.
Yeah.
Like, it's really, I think your point about just being the safe space for everyone, like that's what we're trying to be, right? So how well does that align with our values and as a group of people? It's like an immediate yes. It's like, okay, well, whatever we need to do.
That's a very easy way to look at it. When you look at our values and go, well, what are they? It's like, well, we are for the people, and it's all about our community, and it's also about our team as well. And in every place there, and we are family. Like everything is about inclusivity.
Yep.
So, like that's
Yeah, and look, without going to too much detail, there it was brought to us by somebody in the team, and it had special meaning to that person in the team, and so it was like, okay, like
absolutely
just do it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no question.
and I appreciate like that might have been for them something very difficult,
absolutely,
right? Because that could be bringing to light something that they might not be wanting to disclose to their employer, or have a light shot on them, say, oh, now I'm labelled as this thing, whereas just before I was just a whatever.
One on the team, yeah.
So like, there's a lot of respect for me in that person kind of bringing that forward and like wanting this to be part of how we portray ourselves to people external to our company. And my perception on that, and I presume you feel the same way, is if people choose not to work with us because we have these logos or these things, like, you can fuck right off.
You
like,
absolutely can. Yeah.
I don't give two shits about
Yeah.
any opinions that you have contrary to that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm more than happy to support our team member in that instance, but also support that community of people that, like you said, want to learn with us.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And you've got to imagine that anyone out there who's queer, who wants to attend any kind of clinic, right? They have that same potential fear that your employee had of bringing it up, right? But if you walk in the door and the door has a sign that says it's a safe space, then that's so much easier.
Ideally for them, one less barrier
Yeah.
in front of the many barriers that there are to specific healthcare, ideally one less barrier.
Yeah. There's still a lot that we need to learn around language and how to interact with people that these new grads and anyone, without that life experience, you don't have those soft skills to interact with people and respond in the perfect way. And there is no perfect way.
No, there is not.
So
there is not.
But there's so much to be learnt along the way. But if you can create a safe space that everyone feels welcome, and as you say, Andrew, if people want to make that hard for anyone else, they can just fuck right off.
Lovely.
Yes, they can.
Well, I just fucked that beer right off.
That was a very smooth
transition. Yes, it was a smooth transition, Andrew. Thank you. That's the end of part 1. We've got 2 more parts with Sarah coming very, very soon. So keep an eye out for that. And we will see you in the next one. Goodbye.